Hi, this is Jacob Sapochnik, and welcome to the Enchanting Lawyer Podcast, where we teach great attorneys, entrepreneurs about marketing, leadership, and technology. And today I have a very great and exciting guest, Ian Cleary. Ian is the founder of Razor Social. It's one of the leading blogs on social media tools. He's also known as Social Media Tools Guy. Ian is from Ireland. He is an expert in this area and is married, 3 kids, and I learned that he's a kickboxing expert or avid participant. Ian, welcome to our blog.
Thank you very
Podcast.
much, Jacob. Great to be on your show.
Definitely. How are you doing today?
I'm absolutely great. Great.
Very good. So, Ian, why don't you, I gave you a little intro, but why don't you tell us about yourself and about what you do?
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm based in Ireland. Like you said, married with 3 kids. My background is mainly technology. So I had about 15 years experience working in the software industry before I drifted into social media. And when I started in social media, we developed a business about digital marketing training, and we still have that business on the go. But I looked to see, I want to develop something internationally. So having a knowledge of social media and having a knowledge of technology, it made sense to focus on the tools technology part of social media. And what I did is I analyzed all the key influencers around the world and looked at, and most of them were in the US, and looked at what content they were writing. And I found that they would write about tools, and that would be very popular, but nobody focused on tools because none of them really have a technology background. So then I launched Razor Social, trying to own that niche on a global basis. And I assumed that after 3 months I'd find 100 other people doing it, but
Right.
but that wasn't the case. I was lucky. And that helped us move very quickly with the blog.
Very good. And Ian, you're based in Ireland, like I said. And
Yes.
before we move into the questions about the different tools and what you do, I'm always curious to know, how do you differentiate the status of social media in Europe, and specifically in your country, as opposed to what's happening in the US? And you working there, how does that affect your ability to provide content?
Okay, so first of all, I looked for the key influencers around the world in social media, and none of them are really in Europe.
Right.
You know, Europe, I think you mentioned this, Jacob, yourself, that Europe is probably 18 months to 2 years behind the States. So
Right.
my attitude was, I'm going to focus on the US, and then over time, they'll hear about Razor Social in Europe if I just focus purely on the US side of things. Now, I do write all my content from Ireland, and most of the networking is done online, so I don't need to be in the States.
Right.
But what I do is every couple of months, I travel over to different social media conferences like the one I met you at in San Diego, and that's to actually meet people as well. So I think a key part, you can do so much online, but when you actually meet somebody and have a drink or have a bite to
Right.
eat, then the relationship changes. So I think it's really important to have that personal connection with somebody. So I
Right.
always, any opportunity I can go to the States, I will.
Yeah. Take off the social from online to offline. It's key.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
Absolutely.
And then tell me, social tools. For people that are in our audience, mostly professionals, attorneys, entrepreneurs. What do you mean tools? Explain to me what are the tools that you're talking about, and then we'll get into the most. I would ask you about the 3 most popular tools. But before we go into that, what do you mean by tools?
Okay, so generally I distinguish platforms and tools. So the platforms are Facebook, Google Plus, Twitter, all the big platforms. But the tools then, there's a big tools industry built up about tools, for example, to manage all the platforms.
Right.
So specialist tools to get more benefit from the platforms, make it easier to share content, make it easier to monitor, brand mentions on social media, all sorts of analytic tools that are available. So there are all the tools that we talk about,
Right.
and some of the technical issues related to the tools as well.
So we all know that we have to be on all these platforms. Everybody's going to choose whether it's a Facebook or a Twitter, and the tools are important to know how to manage those platforms correctly. So why don't
Yes.
you tell me, in your case, what are your three or four most favorite tools? favorite tools?
Sure. Okay. From a Facebook point of view, I really like Post Planner
Mm-hmm.
because Post Planner makes it very simple to share out content on Facebook. And what it also does, makes it very simple to discover content to share. So I can go into Post Planner and I can put in keywords and I can search. And what Post Planner returns is the most popular content that was shared related to those keywords. So now I'm looking at content like images or blog posts or Facebook updates from other people. Now I can see what's actually popular already. And that makes it much easier then to share out the content. And it automatically schedules the content out as well. So it will save you a lot of time on the Facebook side of things.
Very good. And what we're going to do is we're going to put links to all these tools that you mentioned during our podcast. So Post
Yeah.
Planner is one.
Yeah. Now another tool, a lot of things on social media, imagery is really important. Creating imagery. But you can't always go back to graphic designers all the time. And the likes of Photoshop are complicated tools for creating graphics. So I always recommend to people to use Canva.
Mm-hmm.
That's Canva. And it's graphic design without any graphic design skills. And I really mean you don't need them skills because I'm not good at graphic
Right.
design. You pick a template, you drag images in, you change some text, and all of a sudden you have some professional images you can share out in social media channels.
Very
So
good.
that's actually a really, really good
And
one.
Ian, before you move on to the next one, Canva is interesting because I've been using this and I've been using PicMonkey, and I mean, images has really been the biggest problem that I see for bloggers. We have a blog as well, and also for Facebook, because first of all, you want to make sure you have images with license. And if you get something that you want to modify, you can just go back to the designer every day. It becomes very expensive. And so I think Canva, you mentioned Canva is interesting. It's one of those rising companies, and you probably know that Guy Kawasaki just joined them as
That's right.
their speaker evangelist,
Yeah.
showing everybody the trend that this is going to be the future of, we need visual.
Yes, exactly. And it was a big coup for them that Guy Kawasaki
Right.
joined. I mean, they're not long out of beta and they've 300,000 users already.
Wow.
My prediction is within 2 years they'll have at least 10 million users of Canva. It's going to be a massive global success. It's very evident it will be.
Right. So which means that visual is going to dominate as we continue, because visual stories, whether it's video or images, we have to use that with our blog posts or Facebook postings.
Well, actually, now Twitter as well. I was looking at
Twitter,
the other day, I was looking at Walmart. If you look at Walmart's
Mm-hmm.
Twitter account, you'll
Right.
see 90% of their tweets have images attached.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to it's images and everywhere. And even on Twitter now, we have now a nice profile image with the
New one.
latest changes. Yeah, and you can also then pin images to the top. So you can keep tweets up at the top that have images as well. So it's, images all the way. So Canva is one I definitely recommend
Perfect.
as well. For a general management tool for managing the likes of Twitter and doing some basic analytics, there's two that I like, is HootSuite or Sprout Social.
Mm-hmm.
So HootSuite, some people don't like the user interface for HootSuite, but it provides an awful lot of functionality. You can filter all your content out nicely into different columns. You can
Right.
schedule your content. You can do analytics on it. And most of that is for free, unless you start moving into a team-based environment. And Sprout Social is a really, really good tool which sort of competes with HootSuite and would have a nicer user interface, some nicer reporting, and it's a little more expensive.
Right.
So
And what about Buffer? Is it considered also a management tool, or it's a different?
yeah, so you don't, HootSuite and the other tools provide an awful lot more functionality, but I would use HootSuite, but I'd also use Buffer. So as you know, when you're reading lots of content on the web,
Mm-hmm.
if you see something interesting, at least with Buffer, you click a little button, it puts it into a queue, and then automatically sends it out based on the time you've specified.
Right.
So Buffer is absolutely an essential tool, and it's free up to a certain point, and then it's $10 a month, so it's not expensive after that.
So for somebody who's starting out and they're building their scheduling program, you would recommend to start with HootSuite and Sprout Social as opposed to starting with Buffer.
No, I would go low cost first of all, so I'd pick HootSuite instead
Right.
of Sprout Social when I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting. I go HootSuite, and I'd have Buffer as well. So I'd always use Buffer because it allows me there's some free sharing as part of Buffer.
Okay.
So with your general day-to-day stuff, you'd use Hootsuite. As you're browsing the web and you see some content, then you use Buffer as part of that.
Very good. And yeah, I just came back from Las Vegas this weekend. I was at a big legal conference for marketing. One of the main things that was, in addition to SEO, is analytics. People were just
Yeah.
confused and going crazy about analytics. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, explain to me the importance of analytics in social media tracking. And second of all, let's talk about some of these tools we can use.
Okay, so I think like with the website and any of the online, it's analytics what it comes down to. If you have a website and you go, oh, this is a great looking website, that doesn't mean say it's giving you business. What you need to do is look at the analytics behind that and see, how many people are coming to your site, what are they doing when they arrive on the site, what percentage of them are actually buying your products or signing up to your email. And analytics gives you all this. And with the likes of Google Analytics, it's completely free, so you don't have any excuse not to use it.
Right.
So, and really it's trying to figure out in Google Analytics, find the important information and then ignoring a lot of the other stuff because there's so much data there. But it's really important to have the analytics set up. Now, actually, another tool I came across recently, and I'll share a link, it's called, Quill Engage, I think it's called. I'll send you a link. But
No
what
problem.
it does
We'll put it
is,
at the end, of course.
okay, so what it does is it trawls through your analytics and it produces a report that's actually in English written down. It will say things in the report, say, this week you had 5% more traffic. Most of your traffic came from Twitter this week, more than last week. Here's all the source of traffic. So it takes all that information out of Google Analytics and then presents it in a report type format that you can just read and understand.
Right.
And I think for somebody not that familiar with analytics, that was an excellent tool for doing it. So I'll definitely share that tool as well.
Very good. And so what I wanted to do is I want to differentiate the analytics of a blog or a website and Facebook and Twitter and all these social. So
Yeah.
in a blog, what are you looking for when you analyze your analytics?
Well, to me, it depends what your goals are. But I suppose, first of all, I want to see, well, how many visitors are there, how long they're spending on the site, and many are disappearing immediately without going anywhere else. But a key thing to me then is, are people subscribing when they come to a blog? Like, out of if 1,000 people come to your blog, how many people are subscribing to your email list? Because one of the problems is, I heard a stat before where over 70% of people that visit your blog won't come back.
Right.
So one way of getting them to come back is building them as an email subscriber, building a community over email, and then keeping that communication going. Because somebody comes to your site, they may have just heard of you on social media, first time they may have ever heard of you.
Right.
They don't know you or trust you, so are they actually going to do business with you? But over time, if you're communicating them on a regular basis and you're providing valuable, useful content, then they start building up that trust, and now they're more interested in doing business with you.
Right. That's great advice. And what about social? When we tracking, first of all, a good analytics tool for Facebook or Twitter?
I love the analytics tool I really like for Facebook is Twitter or is Post Acumen. Postacumen. So it's developed by a really smart guy called Chad, and what he does, what I like about it is that it's good analytics, but it's actionable analytics.
Okay.
So he actually says, within the reports it says, post at this time, use these type of images. These are the best images that are working for you. And then you can do analytics on your competitors as well within that. So that's from a Facebook point of view. From a Twitter point of view, I really like Twitterland, TWTRLAND. That's really good for finding people to connect with and then analyzing their profiles and see who they're interacting with. And they could be people you should be interacting with as well.
Right.
And they categorize people into 40,000 different categories. So it's fantastic for finding the relevant people within Twitter.
Right, because Twitter can be so overwhelming. Facebook, you're trying to figure out what is the best time to post, what are the best images or content. But with Twitter, it's just everybody's telling me I don't even want to go there because we don't even know where to start. So that may be a good tool to start kind of analyzing the little groups.
Yeah, because if you were starting, what I'd say is
Right.
go in and find out somebody that you know that's relevant to your industry, you know is high profile,
Right.
and then look at who they're talking to, and that will pick out. And so if they're generally the people they're talking to the most are generally other influential people within their area. So it's a great way of building up a list of people that you can connect with.
Right. Perfect. And again, a very common issue that comes up is for people not to do it properly or not even to do it at all is saying, we don't have the time, we don't know where to start. And I was just curious to see do you follow any particular routine or strategy on a weekly basis? And if so, why don't you share it with us? What is the best way to do it?
Yeah, so really, to me, it works best early morning. So I start generally at 6 a.m. and I do my blogging, I do some reading, and I do some content sharing.
Right.
Before probably I'm definitely finished before 9 o'clock. But the difference, this is not for every business.
Of
3 hours
course.
is not required for every business. This is my business,
Right.
so I spend a lot of time on this. But I think getting a routine, if you're going to blog, get a routine where you go, I'll do it late at night or early morning, or I'll do it every Saturday morning, but get that routine. So I do that early morning. And then I would jump into social media maybe 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 7 o'clock in the evening. I'm not constantly on. I just
Right.
come in and out for 5 or 10 minutes, interact. I'm looking for opportunities to interact. So in the morning, I might find content and I go, oh, here's great content, and I share it out.
Right.
And then when I'm jumping in 11, 3, 7, then I'm going, I want to interact with people and have conversations with people.
So comment,
Yeah,
retweet, do all that kind of stuff.
exactly, exactly.
What about your scheduling? For example, do you follow a content calendar? I often hear people talk about you should have a content calendar, know exactly what you're going to be doing Monday through, Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, for example, the blog is the core piece of content.
Right.
So what I do is I blog twice a week,
Mm-hmm.
and I deliver a blog post at 11 a.m. on a Monday, 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, and I never ever miss that. And my content,
Right.
I've written my content for the next 6 weeks. So what I actually do is I create the content, I pass it on to a girl who takes that content and adds some imagery onto it, because the imagery takes me time, so that
Of
saves the
course.
time. And then that's passed on to an editor who just makes sure the grammar is correct and there's no obvious spelling mistakes. And I'm always good for putting in bad grammar and
Of
spelling, and
course.
so that girl tidies it up. So I have a little production system going, but I do try and follow a schedule all the time and stick to that. And then I send out a newsletter on a Monday evening and a Wednesday evening all the time as well. I think it's really important to have consistency. Don't blog 10 times the first month and not again for 6 months' time. Or
Right.
don't put all your updates on Facebook today. Spread them out, and on a daily basis, have interaction.
Right. And it's interesting you mentioned that you work with a team. Somebody will edit or imagery. It's hard. How do you manage to balance the voice and the consistency of production, creating a team?
Well, the thing about it is it's imagery, which is fine. It's just I
Right.
want some images. I've created the titles, I've created everything else, and some images and maybe some screenshots. So that's okay. From an editing point of view, I'm not looking for somebody to rewrite the content at
Right.
all. I'm really looking at, is anything I have grammatically incorrect, or is there spelling mistakes, or is there something obvious I've missed
Perfect.
as a point? But because I just can't get somebody to write my content. It has to be my content, my
Right.
tone of voice, my humor, and I don't want to ever lose that.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's your edge.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Ian, one of your the posts that you posted on your blog recently, which caught my attention and I really liked it, was a post that you mentioned how to get more engagement on your blog, how to get more comments.
Comments, okay.
And this is something that people are always curious to find, and I didn't really find anything on this topic. And then when you published it, it was just amazing. Can you share with us some of the strategies that you posted there, and maybe some other things that you
Sure.
feel will be very helpful for new bloggers?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so from a new blog, the problem with a new blog is you don't really have an audience.
Right.
And when you don't have an audience, you write a piece of content and nobody comments on it and nobody shares it. And that's demoralizing and that's very hard. So one way of getting comments is writing a really good article. Say, for example, Jacob, you decided you were set. I know you have a blog already, but
Right.
just say you're setting up a new blog and you write your first article. Uh, Without an audience, you have to reach out to people and say, reach out to me and say, Ian, I wrote this article related to social media. I'd love to get your feedback. Would you mind putting in a comment and tell us your opinion? And reach out to people and send a genuinely nice email, and then people will put in a comment or two.
Right.
You do that for a few blog posts when you're starting off, and now your audiences start growing, and now people see that other people are commenting. So now all of a sudden people comment, and people get used to commenting, and some people comment once, and then they'll come back and comment again. So
Right.
you have to, it's your responsibility to get them comments. Never just start a blog, write a post, and assume you'll get comments. You won't. You have to go out and put that initial work in and invite people into the page and to get the comments. Now, I do things like at the end of the post, I say to people, here's 3 options for you at this stage. 1 is action what we've done above. 2, share the content. Or 3, I'd love if you commented below. And I
Right.
really try and, put a nice message there to encourage a comment. And that encourages comments as well. So there's various techniques. Another one is just making it easy for people to comment. Don't have a system so that if I come to the blog, I have to register all my details.
Uh-huh.
Like I use a commenting system called Discuss.
Yeah, that's what we use. You like that one?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if I go to your blog, Jacob, I know I'm not going to have to. Logged into Discuss, so I know I'm not going to have to put in my
Right.
details. So you've made it easy for me to comment.
Right.
So and always ask a question at the end of the post as well, encouraging that comment as well. So.
No, this is great advice. Now, what do you think is the importance of these comments? Like, what is the value really of having as many comments as possible on your postings?
Well, I really enjoy the comments. I'd love
Right.
to get other people's angle and perspective. So when
Uh-huh.
I write a blog post, it's not a finished article. No matter what you write, there's always somebody else's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you aren't right in some areas, maybe you missed out in another area. So that's adding value to the blog post itself. And
Right.
also from a Google perspective, now you've got your content, and now you've got lots of other content coming in that
Mm-hmm.
Google has indexed as well. And if you look at research, there's a guy called Neil Patel.
Right.
He
He was
put,
on the show as well. He was, like, I think, our third guest.
oh, great,
He
he's
was
a
very
good
good.
guy.
Yeah.
So he done research and found that
Right.
the average in the top 10 search results in Google, most articles there are over 2,000 words.
Right.
And the issue is that it's not that you have to write long articles. It's just that longer articles generally have more useful information.
Right.
So getting your article and then getting lots of comments and that just makes it
That
much
creates
more.
even more content on the same discussion.
Yeah, exactly. And that
Right.
what people say to me sometimes, where do I hear about the tools? Well, in the comments, a lot of people go, "Oh, you haven't covered this tool." I go, "Great,
I
there's
see.
an idea for another article."
Right. Right. And so
And I
that's
think that it's a community you're building as well. It's
right.
not just writing an article. It's a community that's important.
Right. And that's interesting you mentioned, because I wanted to ask you, you have all these tools that you review. You actually try them yourself, of course, and
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
create all these. So
yeah.
the question is, how do you know what is going to be the next thing that you want to try? Is it based on trends or based on something that you find useful that you're looking to do?
A lot of times, it's been stuff that we wanted to do ourselves
Mm-hmm.
within our own business. So, for
Right.
example, we implemented a marketing automation tool recently.
Uh-huh.
And then we start writing lots about marketing automation because there was tools that we were using as part of the business.
Right.
Now there's certain areas like tools I'm looking at the moment for companies that use internal social tools for communicate with employees.
Like Yammer type of deal, right?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Now we're a small company, so we're not going to really use them tools. So I need to look at how I can get that content onto the blog and get people to write about that maybe for us if
Right.
we're not going to use the tools. But up until now, it's been a lot of it has been our problems, what issues we had, and we go, how can we figure them out? Here's 3 tools, let's try them out. Oh, wow, this is working. Let's write a post about it.
Right. That's perfect. And I wanted to find out as well with you about what do you think about mobile? and what kind of tools we can use in mobile to be more effective? If you have some
Okay, so
ideas.
I suppose if you look at the likes of Facebook, more
Hmm.
people are using mobile than desktop.
Right,
So social media channels like Twitter and Facebook are mobile platforms.
right.
And sometimes people use desktop with their mobile platforms. So I think it's important to look at mobile first. Now there isn't really great management tools for like for everything on social media. There is like stuff like on Twitter I use Tweetbot, which is a
Right.
really good Twitter management tool on it. And what I like, there's a lot of other image tools, video editing tools that are
Hmm.
really interesting where you can capture a picture, create a quick video using something like Flipagram,
Yes, I've been doing that.
and then you can share out the videos and that, which is great. And one I was looking at last night is one called Word Swag,
Yes.
which is another
I,
great tool for taking images, putting nice text updates, changing the slant or the orientation of it, and then sharing it out on Facebook and Twitter. So there's lots of these type of tools starting to come out, which is interesting.
right. And you mentioned those two tools. I mean, they're well connected with Instagram. Are you a fan of that platform? We didn't talk about Instagram.
Yeah, I do, and I have an article on Social Media Examiner about Instagram tools. So, uh, the I do it's a very good visual platform. It's growing rapidly. It's
Hmm.
probably going to double in growth this year.
Right.
So it really depends on your business because you don't want to be on all the tools just for the sake of it.
Sure.
But depends on what area you're in. Certainly, if I was in something like fashion, I'd definitely be on Pinterest or
Right.
anything. Or sorry, on Instagram.
But I like that you say that because a lot of other experts who are in social media, they say, well, you have to be everywhere. It doesn't matter what business you are. You can be good at Pinterest or, and I tend to disagree with that because sometimes we can't all be on Pinterest because our business. I mean, we can try, but we won't be able to be consistent there as opposed to if we have content.
I don't. I think it's absolutely pointless. I agree with you, Jacob.
Right.
I think it's pointless if you go if I'm going to spread myself too thinly
Right.
and be on Pinterest and Instagram, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm not going to get value out of any of the platforms. So
Right.
we have to be realistic about our time. So what my thing is to look at the platforms and go, which are the most important ones? And if I identify three or four, I might start with one or two and
Right.
get that working really, really well. Like you were saying, you're not that active on Twitter. It makes sense. You have a very successful Facebook presence. If you were on all the different platforms, maybe Facebook wouldn't have been as successful.
Right.
So it's spreading yourself too thinly just doesn't work.
Yeah.
What I do is I try to make sure that I support the other platforms somehow. For
Hmm.
example, on the blog, any of my imagery is Pinterest friendly. It's the type of images people pin a lot, and I make it available so that people can pin the images. But I'm not that active on Pinterest,
Right.
so people are pinning the images a lot, and we're getting people back to the site because we made it Pinterest friendly, but we're not necessarily engaging a lot.
Very good. And Ian, I wanted to ask you this. You've been active in social media for some time now. What do you think is the value of having mentors in this sphere? And if you want to tell us about your experience with that as you become more successful in this field.
Yeah, I mean, it's same with any industry you're moving into. Social media is a relatively new industry, and it's difficult, and you'll make a lot of mistakes. So you have a choice of making them mistakes yourself, and
Right.
then find the mistakes, and then correct them as you go along, and then make more mistakes and correct them as you go along, or
Right.
find somebody that's been through this before and can point you in the right direction. And that could be somebody that's just a mentor that's unpaid that just helps, or somebody that you pay for that helps on a regular basis. I mean, two mentors that really that spring to my mind is that helped me a lot along the way is Mark Schaefer is one, and he's just a super guy that helped me. And I
Right.
got my first speaking gig at Mark's conference because he took a chance on me. And the only reason I'm speaking at other conferences is because Mark gave me the first chance.
Right.
Second one is Mike Stelzner from Social Media Examiner. He's been a very good friend and helped me an awful lot along the way. And neither of them is paid. This was just, they helped me, and
Right.
it's two guys. There's plenty of other people, but they're two guys I'll never ever forget
Right,
because when I was starting off, they took a chance on me by spending time, giving me advice on a regular basis for nothing, you know.
right.
So
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, mentioning Mark, he's like I said, we talked about him before. He's a great guy, and having somebody that gives you the motivation to start, you feel
yeah,
encouraged because the last thing you want to do is have somebody tell you, "Listen, forget about it. You're not gonna make it."
yeah,
And then that starts off, and it doesn't mean you're not gonna do it, but you're starting off in a very bad step, and having that encouragement, saying, "You know what? Anything can happen. Everything is possible in this fear, as long as you have that direction."
exactly. I think it's finding somebody that's quite successful that you like and get
Right.
on with.
Absolutely.
That has made lots of mistakes. Because if you have somebody that's made mistakes, then it's they found the issues and problems and moved on and then
Right.
got success.
What do you think are some of the new tools coming out, or something that you look forward to is happening at the end of this year or next year? Well, what is the future in these tools?
It's a very difficult question. So it's like it's looking into a magic ball because the
Right.
problems are the platforms are
Hmm.
changing and new platforms are springing up.
Right.
I think one of the things is there's a tool called Zapier,
Hmm.
and Zapier, what it does is tries to link tools together. So
Okay.
you go, oh, if somebody uploads something on YouTube, but then automatically send a tweet and automatically do something else. So I think there's going to be more integration of the tools so that they interoperate together better because that's what people really want as well.
Right.
And that's one thing I do see. There'll be definitely more mobile and much better mobile management tools. And I think some businesses will only use a mobile device to manage all their social media. I
Right.
think we'll get to that stage. Because if I'm working in a florist, it's sitting back and getting my desktop open mightn't be great. Whereas if I can do everything on my mobile device, that would work better.
Right. And more people are going to start shifting to using their handhelds whenever they travel. So
Yeah,
being more accessible on mobile is definitely going to be the future. I totally
absolutely.
agree with you. And I'm excited to, because our phones are going to get better. The new iPhone coming up this year, and who knows what's going to be what kind of apps we're going to see on that phone, right?
Yeah, and I love the way mobile phones are going. They're going smaller, 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 smaller. Now the screens are getting bigger and bigger and
Right.
bigger.
Now it's getting bigger again, so it's going to be more visual. Coming back
Yeah,
to visual,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Very
exactly.
good. Yeah, and as we come to the end of our show, I wanted you perhaps to share with our audience a favorite book that you're reading or you want to recommend. It doesn't have to be a business book.
Well, I read a lot of business books. I really enjoy them. So
Right.
um, there's a book on if people are interested in speaking skills, which I love, and I love speaking.
Right.
Nancy Duarte, Duart, has a book called Resonate,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just brilliant. If you want to learn all the structure of speaking at different events, it's just a fantastic book. Second one I would recommend is Mike Stelzner's book Launch. It's a few years old now,
I
and
read
it's
that one. It's an excellent book.
yeah, it's great. It just if you're going to blog, well, don't start on your own. Read that book first, and you'll get a lot of shortcuts. And Mike just shares all his knowledge through it, so definitely worth getting that one as well.
Very good. We're gonna try to get him on our show too. I know he's less
Oh,
busy now,
great,
so
great.
definitely.
Yeah,
And then I wanted you to share maybe a quote that you like or you feel that would be good for our audience to know.
perfect. Okay, well, one that I have used a good bit because it sort of makes sense, resonates with me is man cannot discover new oceans unless he can lose sight of the shore.
Very good.
And that resonates with me because I suppose one thing I'm in Ireland, so I had to lose sight of the shore and travel over to the States to discover things. So it's really taking some risks. You need to take some risks, and if you don't take the risks, well, then not a lot's going to happen. So to me, a risk was for the first year of my venture, I invested money. I was spending on flights, writing content and not getting paid for it, developing, growing the audience. But now it's all coming back. So I had to take that risk.
Right. Perfect. Very nice. And then Ian, I want to ask you last question. I know that you live in Ireland and you have a family, and I think this business changed the way you are living your life now. You have more time to spend with your family, and you exercise a lot. Tell me about your kickboxing thing. I was intrigued by that. Is it something
Well,
that you do?
I I actually haven't done kickboxing for about 6 months, but I'm going back to it soon.
Right.
But fitness is the thing I just love. I love fitness.
Right.
So most times I start work at 6 in the morning, and about 12 o'clock I've 6 hours work in, and I'm not mad into food, so I go and train for an hour.
Excellent.
And then I come back in, and then I'm ready for the afternoon. I don't get tired in the afternoon because I've done my workout, and now I'm ready to get going again. Kickboxing I used to find, and I'm looking forward to going back to it, was
Right.
if you want to forget about work completely, if somebody's coming at you with a fist, throwing you a punch, you forget about
Right.
work pretty quickly. So it's just, you need something, just a complete escape. And to me, that's my gym. The gym and fitness is my escape from
Very
things.
good. I can relate to that. I was practicing Taekwondo for a while, and
Oh,
that was a good
brilliant.
escape just to get it out of there. You know, when somebody's
Yeah,
kicking you in
yeah.
the face, you don't want to think about work at that point, right?
No, no,
So
absolutely not.
that's good advice for work and life balance. We can throw in that podcast in addition to the tools.
Absolutely.
Very good. And Ian, if our audience want to find you, where's the best place to find you online?
RazorSocial.com. So on Razor Social,
Perfect.
and that's the best place. Or maybe on Twitter at Ian Cleary. I'm
Perfect.
often on Twitter as
And
well.
we'll have all the links at the end of our podcast.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much, Ian, for coming on our show. I'm really honored that you've been taking the time from Ireland to come on the show.
Well,
And
I'm very honored to be on it as well. So thank you very much for having me.
thank you, Ian. And this is Jacob Sapochnik, enchantinglawyer.com. Hopefully you enjoyed our episode. Please leave comments or email us with any suggestions for future shows. Thank you and have a great day.